So if I were to come up to you and be like, you're purple, what would you say?
Who hurt you? I don't like purple.
Welcome to Unpopular Opinion with Mac and Hay, where we're all about challenging cultural narratives with biblical wisdom. We'll dive into tough topics and unpack lies we've been told. So grab your coffee, open your Bible, and get ready to rethink the world around you, one unpopular opinion at a time.
Today we're talking about another controversial topic, and that is mutual respect.
Mm-hmm. Mutual respect.
The unpopular opinion about mutual respect is I don't have to respect them if they don't respect me.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Whoa. Well, when you're in a relationship, two become one. So how can you not respect yourself? And if you don't love yourself, you don't respect yourself, then that's the underlying issue that you need to start with. I would go there first. If you're having a situation where you're in a relationship and you're like, he doesn't appreciate me, or she doesn't do this for me, she doesn't do that for me. Well, then you're not going back to the communication side. Then you're not communicating that with each other about the love, like what you want out of the relationship. You know, men desire to be, they got to be the strong ones. Women are emotional and they're strong in their own right. I mean, you do not discredit a woman's strength. If you're not balancing it with each other, then you're not going to have the level of respect for each other that you truly deserve. Both of you do.
I think it boils down to both people need to respect each other regardless of how they feel in the moment, because heated emotions can get pretty heated sometimes, and disrespect is flowing around, and attitude or tone or what people say to each other. You can't take words back. And if you have that person on a pedestal that you respect, and even though you're fighting or whatever is going on, you're continuously doing things out of love and continuously lifting up the situation instead of destroying the situation. Because with choices, you either build something or you destroy something. And then if life comes over and knocks over your Lego tower, you build up something firmer in a foundation that way. And I think I've been really guilty of this, of just tearing people down and not caring. But I do care. In the heat of the moment, I don't care. But later, I just feel really bad about it. So I quit doing that. I quit tearing someone down to make me feel better and just gave them an equal amount of respect. Now, do I get emotional about something sometimes? Absolutely, I do. But I always try to show that they matter. I care about what they are going through, and I try and seek to understand what they're going through.
Empathy
as well.
Empathy.
Yeah.
I would say that one of the biggest parts where you see the most disrespect or lack of respect in general is arguments.
Mm-hmm.
Arguments.
Especially when you don't feel heard.
No. Yeah.
You're
Arguments.
gonna hear me.
Yeah. So I think that there's a lot of people. I tell you, one thing that I see is when I see people getting into arguments, and the first thing they do is they want to throw up names. They want to throw up names, past. If you did this, if you did that, no. You need to cut that out. It's not going to get you anywhere. You're talking about the now. What happened in the past, you can't fix. You're either forgiving that person at that time or you're not, and you need to talk about it more. But the level of disrespect that I see so many times, and I have a friend of mine that does like to curse at the other and so on and so forth. I'll be honest, I'm in complete disagree with it. And they know that too, just so you know.
Mm.
I've voiced my opinions on that because I think that when I'm having a disagreement with Haley, like I never want to disrespect her. I don't want to hurt her because hurting her is hurting me. If I hurt you, then I'm hurting myself because we're one. So if I'm sitting there demeaning you, calling you names, or God forbid, put my hands on you, how is that going to better our relationship?
It's not. It's going to cause resentment because there's an expectation there for you to lead, but also love. And if the expectation is, I'm going to feel safe around you and you're going to help me feel safe, and then you don't, it causes a resentment right then and there. I love what you said about we're one and not bringing up the past. My dad used to always say, you never keep a scoreboard in love. And we always want to keep score, keep tally, and you did this and you did that. And 20 years ago, you did this. And so I'm going to hold on to that because it supports my narrative in the moment. But at this, right now, what you're doing is you're destroying the relationship that you've built. It's almost like putting marbles into a jar, and every love thing that you do, it puts a marble into a jar, deposits it into this jar. But then when you have an argument, all those marbles can be filled out of that jar, and it takes time to rebuild back those marbles. So every time that you disrespect your partner, you're pouring marbles out of that jar that you worked so hard for.
I agree. In Ephesians, it talks about it. It says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. He gave himself up for her, that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word. Ephesians 5:25-26. So with that, that's such a huge responsibility for a man. And most men really don't, I don't say that they would look into that as much.
Do you equate love with respect?
Oh, good question. A certain level of it, yeah.
You can love someone and disrespect them at the same time.
But you can love someone and respect them, but you can not love somebody and respect them as well. There are, because of works and things like that. But in a relationship setting, mm, I would ask why. Because I would also say, if you don't respect them, but you're in a relationship with them and you love them, what did they do to lose that respect?
Or what narrative did you learn from the world that taught you that? Because some men are like, I'm not going to listen to no woman. Some women are like, I'm not going to listen to no man, you know? Yeah, so I think it really has to deal with
goes back to the
your
boss
beliefs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The beliefs. And I mean, your faith.
Yeah.
Like if you don't have a guideline, I would say a guideline. You know, some people aren't into biblical, okay? And that's understandable. I mean, people get church hurt and they don't want to look this way or that way. And we're not here to change your mind. We're just here to bring you a perspective from our relationship and how we grow in our faith and relationship. But through faith helps us through our relationship. So,
although I have my opinions on church hurt podcast.
That's a whole new one.
But it's based on morality, right? If we look to building something positive, you have to have some sort of morals behind you. And it's good to have a basis that is a solid foundation. The solid foundation is love, truth, being genuine, having respect. Like all these are pillars, right? Communication, respect, all those are pillars to building a very strong tower.
Romans 12:10 says, be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. See, what the Bible talks about in that is that should be for everybody. We're not meant to hate. we're meant to love each other and care for each other and nurture each other. And that's why, if you notice, it's no different where even, what's his name? Abraham Lincoln, and which derived from the Bible, a house divided against each other shall not stand. But that's us as a human race. If you notice, in every culture, it's all togetherness.
Yeah.
There's division in there, like a brother and sister type sibling arguments. But in this far in a relationship, though, I'll go back to it. You're one. You're one.
And you can't hate something that you don't love.
Oh, yeah. You can't hate something you don't love.
And
Keep that in mind for if you have an ex that you say, I can't stand that sorry sack of hogwash mess.
which is disrespect.
It is. It is. So
So what if they disrespect you?
who?
Like if they're
Current
whoever.
relationships?
Yeah, like, well, let's say exes, current relationships, like say that they disrespect you.
Biblically or non-biblically?
Does that give you license to be disrespectful? back?
No, because actually, we were talking about this before. Every action that you do has a consequence. That's why you remember the crappy things that your ex from your first boyfriend did to you. And people don't look at how that changed you as a person in a relationship. That's another thing that people don't seem to take into account, is that the things that you do now also affects you later. I mean, it doesn't matter how good somebody comes in. If you haven't processed your past relationship and understand what you did, stop looking at what they did. They're no longer in your relationship. So if you keep going by, if you're treating your current relationship like your past, alluding to the fact that they're the same person, they're not.
Mhm.
And you're automatically
Association.
guilty
Yeah.
by association, just because he's a man and she's a woman or
You
whatever.
remind me of this.
You
person.
remind me of this. Well, my ex used to do this. My ex used to do that.
That's
Don't say that.
not fair.
Not fair. I mean, if you're talking about a previous relationship, which is understandable because we've done it, especially with the kids and so on and so forth. And questions come about of, what would you have done differently? Sometimes we just want to talk about that stuff, but we're a little bit different. We're not using it as this person did this better than you don't compare.
Comparing is bad.
It's very bad. Very
It's
bad.
bad because it's not fair to that person who is there that's trying to work it out. That other person is not there. And because they're not there, they also can't plead a case to you that they have changed. And let's say that they have changed. And let's say that you are stuck on a person that they were 10 years ago, but they're a completely different person because they
too sad.
grew and they went to therapy and they changed their lives. And so you really can't be stuck in the past. And that's why I say every day is a new day. This is a new moment. And so even if you did something yesterday, we're going to try and work it out right then and there. And if we can't, we're going to take a pause. And that's part of respect. That's part of respecting you as a person, moving forward, building forward, instead of being stuck in something where we just tear each other apart or we break it up. Or what's the point in that? That's not a healthy relationship. That's toxicity. And I think that some people get stuck in the toxicity because they think that it's normal, but it's really not normal. Like, you're supposed to build forward. You're supposed to build something healthy. You're supposed to have healthy communication. You're supposed to respect one another. And I think it goes back to, that's like the number one thing that you really need. Like, respect first, trust, love, communication, all those things, like I said, are pillars that you need.
Mm-hmm. 1 Peter 2:17 says, show proper respect to everyone. Love family of believers, fear God, honor the emperor, which actually is quite interesting. You're going to love everybody. So if you live a life where you're constantly, I would say, regressing, if you think that by talking negatively about your exes or not negatively to your spouse or anything like that, I'd say you're regressing in life. Because how are you going to get ahead? How are you going to get a better person? How are you going to work on those issues if you don't take accountability and say, you know what? There's two sides to every story. I mean, I can sit here and say all day, they did this, they did that, they did this, they did that. But that's disrespecting you
Yeah.
because I'm not giving you the full story. I'm just saying how bad they were. But if I'm not admitting my faults to you and saying this happened, but I did this, I'm taking accountability for my actions, and I can show her the growth in me that I have done because that's a big deal. I mean, going from, let's just say that you were an alcoholic. Some people go to the fact of, well, had they not been like that, I wouldn't have been an alcoholic. That's not taking accountability.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a cop out. But you're like, well, now that I'm over that, I'm not an alcoholic anymore. You're lying to yourself.
You could be a dry alcoholic.
That's right. Yeah.
You'd have the same
Yeah.
mindset of an alcoholic. If someone were to say, like in a relationship, if someone were to come up to you and say something very disrespectful, how would you approach your partner? So if I were to come up to you and be like, you're purple, what would you say?
Who hurt you? I don't like purple. I mean, but that also goes back to what power do you give that person over you, over your words?
Well, there is power of life and death in the tongue. So we do
Yes.
have to acknowledge
Yes.
that.
Yes.
However, you're right. Like we do have to guard our hearts from, especially if your love language is words of affirmation, which is
Ooh,
yours. Mine
that's
is
mine.
physical touch. But
Mhm.
I do care about words too. I think my second would be words of affirmation.
Yeah.
And if I'm spewing hateful words, that's going to mean more to you. And if I know that and I use that as a weapon, that's awful.
Yeah. And that's going back to like how to basically fighting fair. Are you fighting? If you're fighting to win an argument, you've already lost. I mean, I'll just say it. Like if you're sitting there fighting with your significant other and you get to the point where you're yelling or you're putting someone down and disrespecting, you've lost. I'll be the first one to say it. You lost that argument.
So you won't engage. What would you say? What words would you use?
Instead of coming at me with this, what's the underlining problem? Let's talk about what the problem is instead of going backwards. And if they continue that to put you down and things like that and start to go that way, like, well, I don't have to tolerate this. I don't deserve to be disrespected. I don't deserve to be treated this way. I mean, and to be honest, that doesn't matter what I did. It doesn't matter what I did. And it doesn't matter what they did because you're not going to get anywhere. That's the thing. If you're sitting there coming at them and you're like, rah, you think that you're going to get anywhere? They're going to be like, ha, ha. Well, I'm not listening to this. They're going to be sitting there like this and you're going to be just talking away. So it's better just to be like, I understand I messed up. Take accountability and don't be afraid to tell the truth to each other. Because if your significant other can't be with you when you tell the truth, even when it hurts, and not have that fear that they're going to walk away and leave you, honestly, that may not be the right person before you get married. I would rethink that. Especially right now, if you're watching this and especially if you've gotten this far, I do hope that you've gotten this far. Thanks for watching. If you're in that situation and you're telling them something that's really deep and heavy on your heart so you can progress in your life and your relationship, and that causes them to leave, God's got better plans for you.
If I were to come up to you in a disrespectful tone and be like, you didn't do the dishes.
You didn't either. Don't say that.
Well,
Don't say that.
let's try this. You
Hey, you
didn't
have
do the
to.
dishes.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm working on this and I will get to it. Can I get 5 minutes to get done with what I mean to do? Whether if you kept going and I'm just going to be like, I told you I would. I promise you that I will. Now, if I break that promise, I would question you yourself. Are you a person of your word? Because if they continuously have this pattern, you're not going to give them anything to work with. So they're not going to believe you. And so if patterns start happening, I would say if there's a situation that comes up like that and it's constant, instead of doing it in the moment, I would say wait until everything's done, the kitchen's clean and the dishes are done. And let's just say they did the dishes. You say, can I talk to you? And they sit down and be like, I'm not angry. I just want to know, like, how can I help you help me? Because this is really bothering me. Like, I want to get this fixed because I'm tired of getting upset or agitated because this isn't done the way I need it to or when it needs to be done. So I would say do something like that. Don't pop off. Because if you pop off or
I
use
take a
something like
pan and
that,
a spoon and
yeah.
I'm gonna take these dishes and I'm gonna throw them in the trash and throw them on your side of the bed. Not do
Oh,
that either.
You want this dishes yours? I'll throw them out the window.
Well, at the end of the day, what's the most important thing? It's not about the dishes. It's not ever about the dishes. It's not ever about the little minuscule things that you fight over. It's a deeper principle. And the principle is if there's a pattern.
I'm not being heard.
Well, I mean, if it's a pattern, it's problematic.
Yes.
And so how do you deal with the problem? How do you deal with the pattern? And
Go to the root cause.
I love what you had told me, God, 4 months ago, probably now, about this story of this wife who kept asking her husband to paint the room.
Yeah. In a nutshell, the woman that worked with the doctor said, I've been trying to get my husband to paint this room for 3 months or however long. And he just won't do it. I bought the paint. I've put it in the room. I've gotten the tape and da. And he said, so he knows that he wants this room done. And she's like, well, yeah, he should by now. I said it every single day for the last few months. And then
about pattern.
yeah. Yeah. Well, honestly though, it came back and he explained, okay, for the next few weeks, don't say one word about it. But in everything else that he does, that you're there, that he does for the household, praise him for it. And what's that doing that's ultimately filling his love tank? Because maybe that's something that you want, or that's something that she wanted, but he wasn't giving it to her because he didn't have the emotional capability to, because he wasn't feeling loved. So his love tank wasn't being filled. So when you don't fill each other's love tank, or if you don't constantly love on each other and make each other feel like they're needed, desired, loved, so on and so forth, then there's going to be a decline here and a decline there. And the sad part is that men, by the time they figure it out, because women don't tend, I'm using this as a general, but women don't tend to talk about their feelings to their husband as much, but they'll talk to their girlfriends.
Mainly because they don't feel like he listened.
Well, yeah, because they don't feel, or they don't know how to communicate.
Right.
But they'll talk to their girlfriends, and let me tell you, this is huge respect. Keep your relationship business to yourself.
And your therapist.
Like if you have an issue, take it to a couples counseling, take it to a therapist, but don't take it to family or biased people.
And the reason for that is
because they will obviously be on your side and then they may steer you in the wrong direction.
well, and once they see it, they can't unsee it.
Put you
Now,
in a
I
bad
don't
light.
I think that there's caveats to that. I think that if you are in a physically abusive relationship, that is one um, thing that you really do have to speak up about and don't
Mm,
keep silent. Don't keep silent about abuse, not
no.
ever. But if it's everyday thing, it's like, oh, he just doesn't do it. Like keep keep that
Yeah.
between you and your therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as any kind of physical abuse, nobody should put up with that. Now, you'll never hear me talk about positives of being divorced. As a matter of fact, I mean, I'm divorced, not out of because I wanted it, you know, just because I wasn't ready for marriage. Let's put it that way.
Mm.
I didn't take the right steps beforehand to get to that point. At the same time, abuse is a big thing. If you're in a situation like that, I would say before anything, you need to go to like a family member's house, reach out to church family, or if you don't have church family, there's family, and just have a small separation time. You can't control other people. And that's a huge thing, especially about respect. You can't control other people. Stop trying to control your partner. And just because you think that it's, oh, well, I'm going to take control of this situation, well, you're disrespecting them. You're not respecting them enough to make the choice on their own or guiding them to make the right decision to help you. So I would say, and I know that there's probably going to be comments out the wazoo. I go off of the Bible. So the Bible says the only technical acceptable reason for divorce is adultery and then if the non-believer leaves. And honestly, you can get through anything. I've seen people get through alcoholism. I've seen people get through
Cheating, cancer,
cheating,
having other
cancer.
kids with other people.
Yeah.
You can, it depends on what you want to work through. But if it is physical violence, definitely separate for a time because
Yes.
the Bible also says that you can separate for a time.
That
Um,
means that he or she is not doing their part as a marriage in a relationship. And that goes for biblical too. I mean, like I said in the verse, it says, a man is supposed to love his wife as Christ loved the church. That Christ would never lay his hand on it. I mean, he even sat there and said when they were trying to stone the woman, he said, he who has not sinned cast the first stone. So he never advocates for violence in any which way. Even when Peter got upset and slashed the soldier's ear off, I mean, Jesus put it back on.
yeah, Jesus showed love and respect to everyone. So I think that's really good moral ground to go off of, an example to go off of what he did and how he treated the Pharisees and all the religious leaders that came to him and was very disrespectful to him. But he always showed love through it all. So
And pride has no place in a relationship. None. You have to throw down your swords and understand that, we're two different people trying to be one. And you can't make it all about you. It's about you as one. So I give you, I would say, give grace. We're human. People are human. Your significant other is human, and keep that in mind. Just because they might have didn't do the dishes or something of that sort, while it may seem big in the moment, it's small in the overall large picture. This is the person that you chose to be with for the rest of your life. And when you said, "I till death do us part," that's a pretty big statement, and people tend to forget that so much. And so,
I love what Snoop Dogg said. And he's like, it says till death, don't it?
they'll bad, don't it? And him and his wife been together a long term. Like
Just so hard in that industry.
yeah, yeah. I mean, he's never wavered from her, which is amazing. But those kind of relationships, I mean, It's because of respect. He respects her because she stood by him even through his hardest times, and she worked while he was trying to get his foot in the door, you know? And that just goes to show the power of a strong woman like I got. She's my sweet potato.
I am. So when it comes to respect, but just like you said, lay down your sword and take your time. Don't come up with assumptions. Don't sit there thinking that they are thinking a specific thing. Don't assume anything.
Stop trying to win the argument.
Yeah. And just seek to understand. And respect also comes with patience. That's why I say take your time, because you have to be really patient with yourself, your own emotions, and then the whole situation. And you're trying to understand the situation, but don't, like I said, don't come up to your own conclusions about it, because you don't know what they're thinking. You don't know what they're going through unless they tell you. And so seek to understand that information. And also, what they tell you may not even be the root cause of what they're actually feeling, because they may not know, or they may not have processed that yet. So that's why, like, double down on respect, because if they need you and you need me to be your rock, I'm going to be your rock. I'm not going to try and tear you down when you're already torn down and I'm not aware of it. You know, like, you're not doing the dishes. It might be because you have something else going on that I'm not aware about. You haven't told me yet.
You
So I'm
don't
going to
know.
tear you down doubly. That's even worse.
And don't assume anything. Don't jump to conclusions. You know, it's like what if she was to come to me and say she was frustrated because I didn't do the dishes right then, but she didn't know that I was in the other room getting her birthday present together. I mean, how would you feel if you just beat this man down or beat this woman down and you didn't even know that they were sitting there trying to make something so much bigger on the other side of that door? And then now it's going to be like, you got to put yourself down when you find out about it. They're going to feel like awful about it, not want to do anything further for you. And how are you going to do that to somebody? How are you going to do that to each other? So I would encourage you to stop putting so much pride and put your spouse above everything else, just under Christ.
And if you do have a situation where you're split up and there's kids involved, you have to love your kids more than you hate each other. That's a saying from Judge Judy.
Quotation.
Thank you, Judge Judy, for that one. But she's right. You do have to love your children more than you hate each other. And that comes with respect on co-parenting. And
remember, can't hate something you did where you don't love.
Agreed. You
So-
can't hate something that you don't currently
Have feelings for them.
Yeah, there's some sort of disappointment, sadness behind
Need to let
their
it go.
unhealed. So yeah.
And how can you be in another relationship if you haven't dealt with your past? Deal with your past. And I encourage you right now, if you're in the situation where you're having problems in your current relationship, go back to your past relationships and think to yourself, what could I have done better? Not what you did, not what they did. What could I have done better? Stop focusing on, oh, if they did this, they did that, they did this. Oh, he put his hands on me. She put her hands on me. Stop. Just look at what you did and be like, well, you know, I could have done this better. I could have done that better. I could have spent more time with them. Because if you resolve those problems on yourself, then you can make peace with that relationship. And then you'll have the strength and you'll have more ambition for a new relationship, and you'll be ready for that relationship, because otherwise you're just holding resentment and you're spilling all that over into your new relationship. So I encourage that so much, to work on yourself about it. Don't try to fix your partner. Stop trying to fix them. You married or got with them the way that they are, And while they do change after a few years, people change. It just happens. But you should be communicating enough to grow with them. That's the point of being in a relationship, becoming one flesh, is that now I understand her, or she understands me and what I need and what I like and what I don't like. So I encourage you to really work on respecting yourself, you know?
Thank you for listening to Unpopular Opinion with Mac and Hay. If you loved it, rate this show, take a screenshot, share it out on social media. Be sure to follow and tag us for a shout out. We love hearing your stories and how our show has impacted you.